What's good, man? It's your boy Cam back with the 80 and 2 show. Today, back with another edition. College football. That's what we're gonna be talking about until January 19th, National Championship. We're just gonna talk about the playoffs real quick, man. I was hoping to have my co-host Drake with me. Disappeared on me. But it's all good. It's all good. We're gonna keep it rolling. But first game I want to talk about. First game is Oregon Texas Tech. Uh, Oregon is the point and a half favorites. I believe that's probably going to be the closest game of the not the closest game, but the toughest game to pick because I do believe Oregon is very talented, like they always are. But also, Texas Tech is like that. Texas Tech is a great team. I know a lot of people doubt them because they're in the Big 12. They quote unquote didn't play the best competition. But BYU is a great team, and they handled them twice. So do what you will with that. But I believe the Texas Tech going to give Oregon a battle, and who knows, they might even beat them. But as right now, um, I still pick Oregon because I think they are a very talented team, and I don't think they're, you can. I don't think you can take them lightly. I know this has kind of been a weird year for Oregon. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me bring out the bracket. It's been a weird year for Oregon, but outside of Indiana, they didn't really play, the best competition. But even then, they're still a great team, regardless. So yeah, I'll have Texas Tech, you know, losing by maybe a field goal or a touchdown. I think it's going to be a one possession game. Uh, you got Jacob Rodriguez, one of the best linebackers in the country, if not the best linebacker in the country. You got David Bailey averaging 13 and a half sacks this season. So it's some great guys on both teams. You got Dante Moore. You got I can't never pronounce his name. It's a Hawaiian name, man. But you got Bryce Bow. I like to call him Bryce Bow. You got I can't think of his name. Number 44, the linebacker for Oregon. Got 7.5 sacks this season. Malik Benson, uh, great wide receiver. He had a great game last against JMU, over 100 yards. And you got the running back Noah Whittington, which is about 800 yards. So obviously you got Dante Moore, a great quarterback, first round talent going to this next year's draft. But yeah, I got Oregon by like maybe a field goal or a touchdown. Like I said, it's gonna be a one possession game. But yeah, moving on. Moving on, Alabama, Indiana. Uh, this might be easy for some people. It might not be easy for some people. But in my opinion, I'm leaning towards Indiana because Indiana defense is terrific. The offense is great. Heisman Trophy winning QB. Um, but at the same time, Bama, you can never count Bama out, man. You can never count them out. I didn't think that was gonna be Oklahoma. I proved I'm wrong on that. Oklahoma only likes to play about 2 quarters, and they're done. But Bama, they don't have a run game. They didn't have a run game against Georgia in the SEC championship. They didn't have a run game against OU. They had some runs that break here, break there, but they still only had 28 rushing yards. They're averaging 1 point. They're averaging 1.1 yards per carry, which is nasty work. What is that? Uh, yeah, Alabama doesn't have a run game at all, but Indiana is a great team. A pretty balanced team as well. They're gonna run the ball and also gonna get hit with a pass from Mendoza, a little fade route from Marion Cooper, one of the best receivers in the country. But I give it to Indiana. I think Indiana will win the the Rose Bowl quarterfinals, and I think it'd be about 1 or 2 scores, man. I think it'd be 14-point game or 7-point game because I think Indiana's just that good. I think they're that good, man. So yeah, I got Indiana, but if Bama pulls it out, I wouldn't be surprised because it's Bama. And Tom Simpson, I think he's pretty good. He's a pretty good QB. He doesn't make too many mistakes. Yeah, let's move on to Ole Miss and Georgia. We've seen this before. Uh, do I think it's going to be the same result as last time? No, I don't. I think it's going to be worse. I honestly think it's going to be worse than it was the first time. Because Ole Miss scoring all them points. Then after half, it's you know, like a switch flip for Georgia. And Georgia ended up coming back, winning that game. But this time I don't see that happening. I think Georgia going to do what Georgia do, run the ball all over them. I think they're going to dismiss them by three or four scores, in my opinion. But Ole Miss is a tough team. Hopefully the offense coordinator, I forgot his name. Hopefully he can prove that it's not just Lane Skipper's offense; it's his offense. So, you know, I told y'all, man, this episode ain't gonna be too long. But yeah, I got Georgia by 2 or 3 scores. I dumb it down a bit by 2 or 3 scores. I say 28 to about 10 or 17. One of them. And then we got Miami and Ohio State, man. I'm big Buckeyes fan over here. OHIO. Yes, sir. Ohio State, with the bye, coming off a national championship last season, 11 and not 11-2, 12-1 record. Only lost to number one seed Indiana in the Big Ten championship. Miami beating Texas A&M, which was I'm not gonna say it was a boring game, but it was a very defensive game. But if you're a football head, you like to watch. But if you're not, you thought it was boring. But Miami did what they were supposed to do that game. They capitalized on the mistakes of Marcel Reed, who had 2 picks and a fumble, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And Miami rushing game also took over. Mark Fletcher Jr. He had 172 rushing yards. The defense showed up big. Ruben Bain, one of the best D linemen in the country, had 3 sacks. Marcel Reed didn't really show up. The running game for Texas A&M really didn't show up. And I wish it did because I believe Texas A&M was the better team. But few too many mistakes were made. Field goal kickers for both sides couldn't make any kicks until about the third quarter. That's really it. But I think Ohio State wins that one. That's by far the biggest spread they have. So I'm picking Ohio State. You already know I was gonna pick Ohio State, but I've said it before. I didn't think Miami deserved to get in the playoffs, but hey, they're in the playoffs. So I think it ends here now with Ohio State and Miami, and I think OSU is gonna take that by a pretty nice, sizable margin. You feel me? In my opinion, anyway. but they'll tell you otherwise. But Ryan Day, he's taking over play calling. Um, I honestly I don't have that much faith in Ryan Day as a play caller, but I would love to see the improvements and the adjustments he made the last time he was play calling. I think it was like mid season when we lost to Oregon last year. But yeah, I'm gonna give me a second. I gotta pull up my notes. I gotta break down the strengths of these teams. Uh, I ain't gonna lie. I got 2 out of 4 wrong last round. I gotta go 4 for 4 this time, man. I gotta go 4 for 4. I'm trying to figure out who do I really want to win. I'm trying. Give me a second, man. I'm trying to think about it, man. I'm trying to think. I'm gonna start with Oregon, Texas Tech. Got my notes about them right here. I don't know. I really do not know. But both teams, Oregon, Texas Tech, have some of the biggest NIL fundings in the country. We're talking about Texas. Obviously we know how much money Texas has in general, and you know how much Nike has with Phil Knight. That's where he went to college, so um, he's gonna make sure Oregon has all they need for a national championship. But now it's all about execution, and hopefully, if Oregon can execute, the rest of the playoffs, they have a chance to actually win a national championship. But we've seen Oregon a couple times, like at the end of that JMU game, loss of focus. Uh, I wasn't gonna say they allowed a comeback, but hey, it got pretty interesting to the end. JMU was moving the ball pretty what you call it, pretty willingly. I think they had and Dante Moore had 2 interceptions. You can't do that against Texas Tech and win, in my opinion. But honest to God, JMU, if we were just looking at the box score and the stats, obviously, if you didn't watch the game, if you see this, JMU, it should have been it should have been closer. It honestly should have been closer. If JMU would have capitalized on their early uh, opportunities in the end zone, I think the first couple plays, not the first couple plays, first couple drives, they were in the end zone within like the 5 yard line, I believe, and they couldn't punch it in. They settled for a field goal on one, and the other time they missed the field goal. So JMU didn't capitalize, but I say still they had same amount of first downs as Oregon. They went 4 for 4 in their fourth down attempts. They only had like what 6 less total yards than Oregon. Uh, they have no turnovers. All besides the penalties, they had 13 penalties, which could kill your team. Really, they had JMU had a great game against Oregon. They had a great game. They did the best that they could, and it still wasn't enough. But I think Oregon has gonna have to clean up those mistakes. Uh, when I say those mistakes, I mean Dante Moore throwing 2 picks. JMU is not Texas Tech. Texas Tech has a better defense than JMU, and JMU. I mean not JMU and Texas Tech. If you throw them 2 picks, you're not gonna. I don't think you're gonna be able to win that game. If you throw 2 picks against Texas Tech, I don't think Oregon is gonna be able to win that game. That's in my opinion. But Texas Tech, they don't have the uh, they don't have the greatest offense in the country. Honestly, they could be better on offense, but of quarterback got hurt middle of the year, have 1,000 yard rusher. So it's a pretty good team all in all. They average about a lot. They average about 42 points a game. Their defense is top three. The offense is top three. So they should be able to compete very well with Oregon. I know a lot of people, well, some people anyway, might think it'll be a wash, but I think Texas Tech gonna give Oregon a better game than people anticipate. I think they could even beat Oregon. I personally want them to beat Oregon. I'm just leaning Oregon because I don't know why I'm leaning Oregon. I'm just leaning Oregon a little more. But hold on, give me 1 second. I'm getting a phone call. My bad, my bad. My mom gave me a phone call. But yeah, I think Oregon wins by a field goal. I say they win by a field goal. But yeah, Oregon they have a talented offense. Sometimes they have a balanced attack with the run game, but they he's turnover. Dante Moore is turnover prone in big situations. He's proven that against Indiana. He's proved that last game against JMU is not as big of a situation, of course, but I don't know. And we've seen it against JMU. I keep going back to the JMU game because that's the last game we've seen, of course. But they struggled with vertical offense. They struggle with offenses like Texas Tech, who is kind of a running gun, air raid style of offense. So that's probably going to be the closest game, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, I'm going Oregon by a field goal, but I wouldn't be surprised if Texas Tech pulls that off. Are you going to Alabama, Indiana? We already talked about it. I'm just getting more in depth with it. I was trying to be quick with it, but I'm gonna get a little more in depth with it. Indiana, they've recently come into kind of a college football powerhouse. Well, I don't know if you can call it powerhouse. Yeah, I think it might be a little too early, but I think Kurt Cinetti could keep them on this path. They went was it 11-2 last season, I believe. And this season they're 13-0 undefeated. Um, yes, I think they're elite on both sides of the ball. They're efficient as well. They balance. They got a balanced offense. They can go fast. They can go slow. They can slow it down. The defense is very disciplined. I've seen that against Ohio State. They're not going to make too many mistakes. But I do think Indiana is vulnerable to teams I think the defense of Indiana is very strong. I think the defense of Indiana is very strong. I think they could contain Top Simpson. If they could contain Top Simpson, it's over. It's over. But um, yeah, that's pretty much it. Indiana doesn't have too many weaknesses. At least one that I have in my notes anyway. They don't have too many weaknesses. But uh, Alabama, Alabama. I also don't think they should have made it, but nevertheless, they are here. We know Bama. They're obviously gonna have elite talents on both sides of the ball, But the defense, they make big plays. They make big plays. We've seen that in the Oklahoma win. If they can keep that up, who knows? But the offense is very inconsistent, especially when we're talking about the run game. And if the pass game is going, it's kind of wraps because that's all they have. Uh, so yeah, so I think Indiana's gonna win it. Do I say comfortably? Kinda. I kind of say comfortably, but like I said, it's Alabama, so I wouldn't expect to be a run over game for Indiana. Ole Miss and Georgia. Mm. I think Georgia's D line. They haven't been great pass rushing team this year, but they've been elite against the run. Uh, Georgia's is more, it's the Kirby Smart man. His team is more disciplined. We still got to see, Lane Kiffin, not Lane Kiffin. We still got to see Ole Miss against uh, elite competition without Lane Kiffin. We got to see if it is Lane Kiffin's offense or if it's the offense coordinator. I can't think of his name. If it's his offense, but Ole Miss does spread the ball pretty well. If it becomes a shootout, I'm still not leaning Ole Miss. I think they have a better chance if it becomes a shootout, if they can make it a shootout. But I'm going to Georgia. I think they're going to dominate both sides of the ball, like they done against Bama in the SEC championship game. But yeah, it's pretty much. I already talked about the Oregon Texas Tech game. I'm gonna go more in depth about the Ohio State and Miami game because a lot of people say Miami could do this, Miami could do that. We're not gonna act like Miami looked particularly great against A&M, and I'm not saying Ohio State looked particularly great against Indiana, but A&M is not Indiana. A&M is not the Ohio State University, and Miami secondary, they can get a little grabby downfield. Yeah, no, they can get a little grabby. The DBs from Miami had a couple penalties last game that should have been punished a little more by Texas A&M, but they obviously didn't. But yeah, like I said, man, they can get a little grabby. And if you grabby against Ohio State, you got them two guys, Jeremiah Smith, Cardell Tate, they can do it to you. Then Ohio State, you sell out for the pass. They got Bo Jackson back there. They can run the ball as well. I think the trenches, could you say they're even? I don't know. I think the defensive line for Miami is elite, but I don't know about that O line. I don't know how the O line looked. They gave up how many how many sacks? I think they gave up one sack, maybe, if I'm not mistaken. Can't really. I'm trying to see how many sacks they gave up. They gave up 2 sacks. It's not bad, Texas A&M pretty good defense. But I don't think they're gonna have 7 sacks against Ohio State. I really don't. That's what really kept them in the game. The sacks and the turnovers. I don't think that's gonna happen against Ohio State. If Miami's gonna have to keep it close, they're gonna have to keep it close because I think Ohio State could run away with it, in my opinion. But hey, if Miami leads at halftime, Ohio State hasn't really been tested in adversity. They got tested last time in the varsity against Indiana, and what happened? Uh, kind of folded under pressure. I do think it will be different, but we'll see, man. We'll see. Um, but I'm gonna give the edge to Ohio State. Yeah, I'm gonna give the edge to Ohio State. Yeah, that's my predictions. In other news, Dan Lanning, he was doing an interview for the Orange Bowl earlier, and he said something I agree with, and that's the top four teams should also get a home game. So the first two rounds should be on campus games, which I agree with. Because I don't think that's fair that the 5, 8, 6, and 7 team get home games, and the top four teams in the country get rewarded with a bye and no home field advantage. Imagine if Texas Tech won, not Texas Tech, Texas A&M won the Cotton Bowl. They'll be going to Texas in kind of a away game. It wouldn't be a neutral site game at that point. But it is what it is. Hopefully they can give the top four teams a home game next year. But yeah, they got to make some changes with the format. Hopefully they do that pretty soon. I know they have contracts with these things, but yeah, that's my predictions, man. I'm gonna go back over it again. Oregon over Texas Tech barely, but I would not be surprised if Texas Tech wins. Alabama, Indiana, I got Indiana. Ole Miss, Georgia, I have Georgia. And Ohio State, Miami, I got Ohio State. Multiple scores, man, multiple scores. But yeah, I got Ohio State. So that's pretty much my predictions. It's gonna be a quick episode. Hopefully we can get the guys on next week. Drake and Code. Talk about basketball, NFL. But yeah, man, that's it for me. This has been Cam with the 82 Show. Appreciate y'all, whoever joined in, and hopefully y'all tune in next Tuesday or whenever we do a show again. Appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good one. Oh, happy holidays, man. Happy holidays from the 82 Show.